On the next all-new episode of Mashal, Magic and Muscles.
Hey, look it!
Hey! Lemon!
Shut up. Something's off. Someone put a spell on her.
Mashal, Magic and Muscles. Next Saturday night at midnight. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone, welcome to Toonami Therapy. On January 2nd of 2025, I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast where we talk about anime, other things, and sometimes Toonami, but not really this week. They've gone into their end of year, we're just going to show a bunch of...
Hibernation.
Yeah, where they just show a bunch of marathons, although they're going into the start of this year also. I'm also just happy that I was able to say the date and I got the year wrong. I wonder how many times I'm going to accidentally say 2024 in these early weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a few things. Once again, we've got no Toonami stuff. We've just got some of our regular, our non-Toonami anime. Also, as I think we've mentioned a few times, we decided, hey, let's just go through Star Trek The Next Generation. And, which was something we started doing before, but kind of dropped it. And now we're coming back where we started, where we left off. So we're going to have that at the end. Basically what we're going to try to do is we're just going to do the regular podcast with anime stuff. Anything related to that, we'll do that completely. And then we'll just talk Star Trek stuff. So if we've got any other random ending anime things to talk about at the end, we'll do that. Then we'll go to that. So if you don't want to hear us go through any of that, you can just turn it off if you want. So yeah, we'll, because we're currently working on season 1, which depending on your likes, you might be more excited or less excited about discovering it's a season considered the worst.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we'll get into that at the end. For now, let's get into our anime. Not too much to really discuss, but we've got Yu Yu Hakusho episode 34. So in this one, they're going into the next round. And surprisingly, it's not going to be one-on-one fights. They decide to just do a 3-on-3. So they're doing that. It's a 3-on-3 because Hiei and Kurama got ambushed by some other guys that distracted them, so they weren't able to arrive in time. Meanwhile, so basically it's it's Kuwabara, Yusuke, and the Masked Fighter who are fighting the three people who they do manage to discover are regular humans that have these sort of weird things on their backs that give them power and apparently are controlling them. And we also get a flashback thing about how they're basically doing this because a weird evil doctor guy who is so obviously evil when we see the flashback and he comes to them and like says, "Hey, I'll heal this guy for you if you're willing to be experiments for me." And he's like just like does the evil laugh and stuff. He is not even trying to persuade them. Anyway, so they find out that, and basically all the augmented stuff he did to them has made them very strong, and things are maybe looking difficult for our heroes in the meantime. Although, hey, Hiei and Kurama were able to beat their enemies this episode, so not too hard for them.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming this masked person is going to be that grandmother who trained Yusuke.
Well,
I mean, I can't figure out anyone else who could possibly be.
Well, they basically do. They discussed this, I think, a few episodes ago, where Kubar goes, "Hey, is that Genkai?" And Yusuke says, "Well, I thought it was also, but the voice is different." So,
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be Genkai disguising her voice somehow, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, episode wasn't too bad. I was actually kind of happy. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do 3 one-on-one battles, right? And they're like, why don't we just do 3-on-3? I'm like, yes, finally. A change in the format. Finally. I'm all for that. So yeah.
yeah, I thought it was a fun episode. Not anything like amazing or anything, but yeah, it was pretty solid. We have that. I can't remember the specifics of the fight, so for all I know, it'll end up being one-on-one, despite the setup, as that can happen. But I don't know. For now, at least, we're dodging that. Okay. All right, so we'll move on. We are returning to Shangri-La Frontier. We're starting in Season 2. I know we're a bit behind, but that's the way our schedule worked out. So, we're covering the first 2 episodes of this season, so that's episodes 26 and 27 overall. So, Sunraku, Immel, and the other 2 rabbits are one of which I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's the same guy who voiced Erina's father and the Duke in Raeliana. Let me just double check. I should have checked this before, but I'm pretty sure it's the same voice. Dang, what was their name again? Dang, I can't remember the characters. Oh wait, it's Ian Sinclair. That's him.
Right.
Yeah, Ian Sinclair. He was a narrator in Kaguya-sama too. And Brooke. Well, there's a lot of voices he's done.
A lot of them.
Anyway, so Shangri-La Frontier. So Sunraku and them are going because they were going to. I can't remember actually. They were trying to get to the golems because they were trying to find that thing to get them to the armor. They were trying to go to the place to get the thing.
Right.
Basically, they end up fighting against a bunch of golems that they beat. Then Oikatsu and Pencilgon decide to show up at the end of that first episode, and then they basically are really angry at Sunraku for ignoring their emails, but and basically kind of torment him a bit about that. But then they all end up working together. They go into the place, they fight the monster they have to do and get there, and then they find the thing that they were looking for. Then they all go back to town, and they just mostly Emil basically get ambushed by a bunch of guys. All those I don't know if you remember her, but one of the people in that group was that one that was obsessed with the animals and stuff. So they're all just crazy about Emil and are going after her. Yeah. So that's they all just go after them, which was kind of funny. So yeah, that was kind of a scattered way to describe these episodes. I thought the first episode was kind of a bit boring, but I liked the second one a lot more.
Yeah, it was a little more of the things I liked about the show, the humor, so that was good. But, I've never really been able to get in on this plot because it's kind of it's kind of scattered all over the place, and it's I just want them to. It might be the shonen thing to do, but I want them to have some singular goal that they're going towards rather than doing all these side quests and stuff. So, yeah, not a bad start. I thought it was pretty funny. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I can't think of anything else really to say. It was pretty funny and pretty
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. I do find I do kind of like the fact that the series has actual like as you could like gamer lingo in it. I was kind of curious to see okay how much what of this was added in the dub and what was originally in the Japanese because I was looking up some of them. So the part where they say they're DPSers what
Mhm.
that in the Japanese they just said like attackers. In the English they changed it to DPSers. And I'm like, okay, that's like an actual thing people. Well, actually I don't know if I've ever heard someone say DPSer, but I've definitely heard DPS.
What is DPS?
It means damage oh sorry, yeah, it means damage per second.
Oh,
It's like an evaluation of how quickly you deal damage in a game. So you
mhm,
so like, DPSer would be someone who focuses just on dealing a bunch of damage.
mhm.
They also mentioned RNG, which that was in the Japanese. They said RNG, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that phrase has gotten into Japanese too. Huh, okay.
Random number generator.
Yeah, well, there's two possible things. One is random number generator, just used to like, refer to like randomness. Some people sometimes like the joke is to say call it the random number god. It's like, as if there's like some deity in the game manipulating stuff. Yeah. So that was definitely interesting to check. I think they might have used that phrase before in the series, but I did just think it was it. But I was just like, oh yeah, so that's in Japanese also. I'm reminded of they sure use like the term NPC a bunch in quality assurance in another world. Although I watched that dubbed in Spanish, and I heard the phrase. And they, since their letters are said differently, I heard the phrase "na pay say" so many times. But yeah, so that was it. I wasn't huge on the first episode, like I said. Although there was some, I did think some of the stuff with the professor, like the joke of it just being in the game, this little girl, and the voice is clearly this really old guy who's not even trying to disguise it.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. So then we'll move on to the premiere of the second season of Blue Lock. We've got episode 25. Well, it starts up right where the previous season left off, so I sure hope you can remember exactly where it left off. So, but we're talking about the people who made it through the previous selection. They basically made it through those 5-person teams, and that's great. And then all those teams they set up are just completely dissolved. And okay, let me see if I can remember exactly what they're doing. They picked the top. I can't remember if it was top 5 or top 6, but they do that, and then basically
Top six.
okay,
Yeah, top six.
top 6, and then everyone's going to like say which of those people they'd want to work on a team with, and then they'll go up against each other, and this will all be used to determine who will be in the actual game, because they're going to have that game against Japan's U20 team, and they're trying to pick, I guess, like the people who are going to be in there. So everyone's just, trying to, and everyone's just, just saying, hey, well, here's are the guys I'll vote, I want to be on, and then we do, and then, yeah, it's kind of set up, but, so it's set up for that. I assume we're going to have a bunch of those games, and then that'll be used to decide who will go into the, like, actual game, and then we'll see that, and that'll be the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I like seeing some of these characters again, especially Rayo, because Rayo's my favorite character, and he's the one who wants to be like Nagi, wants to play with him. So he ends up choosing Nagi's team. What team did the main character pick again, or was that not revealed? Because I can't remember it.
Didn't he pick? I think he picked Reen's team, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Yeah. See, the one problem I have with this show is this is more of being a sports fan than anything, but you can't play a game with 11 strikers. Like nobody does that. You have set positions on a soccer team, and if you ever put a team of 11 strikers up against a real team, you get destroyed. So I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to prove here by having these teams that are all strikers. It would be like having a football team that was all quarterbacks, or even worse, a baseball team with all pitchers. So no one can hit. Everyone can pitch, but no one can hit. And that just doesn't work. And that, I know soccer's a little different because, everyone's on the field together, but still you would have a very hard time beating a real team with only strikers. So I think that's stretching things a little too much for me as a sports fan. Like, if you don't know sports, that may not matter that much to you. But for me, it's like, yeah, this is totally unrealistic.
I think I saw someone once described Blue Lock as, let's see, a soccer manga by someone who must hate soccer. Yeah, we'll see. It does seem a little doofy, but maybe we'll get an explanation for how some of this works. I thought this episode, I thought it was mostly pretty decent, although it's weird because when the room they're starting at the end of the previous season, it's like a pretty well lit room, and here at the start suddenly it's all really dark. So that was a little weird.
Yeah, they mustn't have paid for the lights. Yeah.
The other thing is, one thing I repeatedly heard about this season is that there must have been some sort of major production problems because the animation got really bad. I didn't actually see that much in this episode, but maybe it's the later ones where that happens. Although, then I also saw a bunch of people saying, oh, the last episode has great animation and it all works out fine. So we'll see how that works. But at least for this episode, yeah, I thought it was okay in regards to that. In regards to what was happening, yeah, in regards to the plot and stuff, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was a good way of getting back into it. I just have a hard time remembering all the people's names because there's so many.
I can't remember most of the characters' names either. I recognize most of them I remember by sight. The only ones I think I can remember are, let's see, Nagi, and dang. Earlier on, did I say that Nagi went on to Rin's team? I meant Isagi. I keep their names both end in Agi, and I get them mixed up.
Yeah.
Main character is Isagi, the white-haired guy who's popular enough to have a spin-off manga about him and a movie on him was Nagi. I got Bachira. I remember Rin only because that he got some focus, and then Bado, and then everyone else is just like that guy.
You remember Rayo, the purple hair guy?
Oh, right, Rayo. I remember Rayo. That's another one. Yeah, but the rest I think are just a blur outside of Ego because he's got a memorable name. So
yeah, well, I think one of the things that hurts is that we got all males in this so it's not possible to separate people into being male and female. So you have a harder time because they're all male.
Yeah, The only female character is Henri, and she doesn't really do much. She's mostly around so that Ego can say, that thing you just said is really stupid, and I'm going to explain why. Okay. So yeah, we'll see how things go in the next episode. One other thing I wanted to say, this is a weird thing. The question is, okay, is blue lock one or two words? Because in Japanese it's just written the same way. They don't really have spaces in the way English does. But which is why, but it makes it confusing because some places will like put it in one word and some will put it in two. Like, let me double check on this. If I remember correct, because I remember the anime and manga do it differently. Let's see. Yeah, so on Crunchyroll, the anime, they write it as two words. And then, if I remember correctly, the manga, however, spells it as one word. So which is it? And the reason I mention this is, when I look on Amazon, it's lists two, but it looks like it's one on the cover, so I don't know. The reason I bring all this up is because there's a few times on screen where that we see blue lock written out in English. Except one time they're combined. I'm thinking, okay, so that's it. It's one word. And another time it's clearly two words on screen in the animation. So that was a little weird, but yep, nothing else to say, but I thought, yeah, I really liked this one. I guess we can go into our final stuff. We were thinking of going forward, and previously we kind of squashed the Toonami and non-Toonami anime together and just kind of picked top three, but then we were thinking for this year, well, maybe we'll change that and just say our favorite Toonami and favorite non-Toonami series, except there's no Toonami series this time, so...
Yeah, the kind of defeats the purpose of a top three.
Yeah.
If we only got three shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean... We top three doesn't really make that much sense anymore. Plus, it turns out the last year, my 2024, my top three really didn't have much say on my actual final list, so it was kind of useless. So I'm okay with doing it this way from now on.
Well, for me, I'll say that I think I liked Blue Lock the most.
Yep, that was my pick too.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we got all that, and that's mostly it for anime. Although I need to say something because I've discovered I have talked about the crazy names that some anime, but especially manga and light novels have had, and I need to I thought, okay, when I saw The Case of Me, a Pro Golfer, being reincarnated as my little sister's putter, that's got to be the craziest. No, then I discovered backstabbed in a backwater dungeon. My trusted companions tried to kill me, but thanks to the gift of an unlimited gacha, I got level 9,999 friends, and I'm out for revenge on my former party members in the world. I'm like, okay, that's got to be it. That's the ultimate. That is not the ultimate. You have to hear this one. This was, I think this was just like I don't think this was even a manga, but this was apparently an actual light novel, or at least a novel series. You got to hear this. American Reincarnation Love Alliance. America was expelled to another world and reincarnated as a blonde-haired girl along with Japan, and headshots monsters with her gun summon skill. What? The Earth's in danger and you want us to go back? Oh, too late. Die. That's the title.
That's really the title?
That's the title. And by the way, I left out the fact that in this, there's a little star in the title at one point and a little musical note. So there you have it. That's the ultimate one. I guess it hasn't gotten an anime yet. So I don't know if it ever will, but that's the craziest title I've heard. Here's the funniest thing. It's listed on, so there's a site called novelupdates.com, and it's a place that kind of lists, translate fan translations of various, light novels or web novels. And when I was looking that up there, I found it that there are categories you can list on these things. And when you list on this one of them is just titles so long it should be criminal. And then you look at, and then you click on that and look at all these other titles that are just as long, but, yeah, some of these are. I only discovered that one that I told you, that super lengthy one, because I saw someone mention it, and I was like, "Is that real?" And I look it up. Yes, this is real, apparently.
It's hard to beat the Little Sisters putter at anything.
I mean, I guess
Which I still want an anime adaptation of that. I still want to see an anime of that.
Well, you'll at least get an anime adaptation of the Backstabbed, Backwater Dungeon series, because that does that whole thing I listed, that does have an anime adaptation coming.
Oh boy!
It's if you want to know, it's basically it's what have I seen some people describe it as? They said it's basically a discount version of Overlord. But I'm sure with that crazy name, it'll probably get some attention.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so now that you've listened to us talk about crazy names, anything else you want to say anime related before we get on to Star Trek stuff?
No, I think that's it.
All right. There we go. So, let's move on. So we got Star Trek The Next Generation, Episode 10, Hide and Q.
Yeah, so basically the Starship Enterprise is trying to help some people who are dying and struggling, and right as they're about to, they get stopped by this big gate, and Q appears. So Q decides that he's going to play a game with them, and this game involves making Riker have Q powers, so now Riker can do things that no one else can, and Riker tries not to use his powers, but then gets tempted to, and finally does use his powers. He turns Wesley into a grown man and gives Worf a companion and makes Geordi be able to see without his visor. But then everyone gives up what they had, and Riker gives up too, so Q loses the game, and that means Q has to go away forever, which we know he does, which is too bad because I liked him as a character, but we lost him. But then they're back to normal, and it looks like they never even helped out those people who were dying down there. So there you have it.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I thought I thought like I was kind of bored through a bunch of this episode, because when you get down to it, the first half, most of it, like, do we need any of that stuff with the game at all? It's like the point is just, okay, Riker gets Q powers. That's an interesting idea for an episode. So let's, spend all this time in them wandering around this planet that doesn't actually do anything at all.
Yeah.
So
I just enjoyed all the Q dialogue, because Q is just so funny that I just like listening to him talk. So
yeah, he's the saving grace of the episode. Even if I do think at some points they just went over the top with him, like when he just goes games. Like that was over the top, but for the most part, the stuff with him, especially when he's interacting with Picard, was the most interesting parts. I just thought some of the other things were just kind of like, okay, so Riker should not use the Q powers. Picard tells him don't use them. Okay, why? Well, what's the reason for him not to use them?
Right. Yeah.
We never get any explanation. And I also think I always like to use this phrase, But the part where he's trying to offer everyone like the gifts and stuff, the things you mentioned, that that scene simultaneously felt too rushed and too drawn out.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I actually like this episode. As I enjoyed everything with Q and his antics, and I liked the whole moral dilemma thing where they had to decide, where Riker had to decide if he was going to use his powers or not. I think that kind of worked out, and the Shakespeare stuff was a very nice touch. I enjoyed hearing all of the different Shakespeare things, and Patrick Stewart did a great job orating that Shakespeare stuff. So because he's kind of trained in that, so yeah, I thought it was actually pretty good. So I actually enjoyed this episode.
I liked most of the stuff when Q was on screen. That was usually kind of fun, but most of the rest of it, I feel like when they're just around on the planet and all that stuff, that whole thing just felt unnecessary to me, and I feel a lot more could have been done with some of the other things. So I kind of feel like, at least of the Next Generation episodes, this is probably, I think, the weakest Q episode I remember. Although I've heard the Q and the Gray episode of Voyager is pretty bad, so probably not the best Q episode of the franchise.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna rank these on a scale of 1 to 10, like we did with the first 9 episodes, which unfortunately I don't know what we gave what, except I do know that I gave that one episode like a 0 or something.
What?
That one awful episode.
That doesn't, there's multiple things you might have just described.
It was the one with like the racial stereotypes and stuff.
Still not narrowing it down. There's 2 I can think of that could be Justice or Code of Honor.
Oh, that's it, Code of Honor. Yeah.
That one's bad. I think I'd actually put Justice below even that one. It's also got at the same thing where like, oh, Justice was like what, as I saw someone say, well, it's a strife-filled world that's completely black people. Justice, an idyllic world populated entirely by white people. That one was less in your face with it, but I'll take Code of Honor because at least there's if you ignored the casting choices, there's at least a not good plot, but there's at least an okay plot there. That's better than what Justice could have. Oh man, giving 1 out of 10, that's tricky. Easier to just say whether this was like the best or the worst episode of the season. You wanna
Yeah, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. I think I put this one at I think I put it as a 5. Yeah. Now I'm curious what I gave for some of these previous ones. Yeah, like I said, Justice was probably, that was the worst one, I think. Code of Honor would have been second worst. Season 1, Star Trek Next Generation, how did you get a second season? Well, so anyway, we got through this, and yeah, anything else do you remember? We've kind of talked about what we think was the weakest episode we saw so far. What do you think was the best of them so far? If you remember,
to be honest, it's too long for me to remember. So
I would, I think probably the previous episode, the battle, it wasn't great, but it just at least had some things there I thought were okay. Well, so any final comments to make about it?
Oh, not really.
Okay. Yep. So that's this episode. Next time we'll have episode 11, Haven. So, and we'll see how that works out.
Yep.
Hey, we're going to be getting our, I think we'll be getting our first holodeck malfunction episode soon. Not that one, but we'll be getting it soon. Okay, and that's all I think I've got about this. So, that's us with Star Trek The Next Generation. We'll hopefully be getting into the good episodes soonish.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got nothing else to say really, so I guess we can cut it there. So everyone, this has been Toonami Therapy, and we'll see you next week for really more of the same. We're going to be having one episode of each of our other series, so we've got Yu Yu Hakusho, Shangri-La Frontier, Blue Lock, and we'll be watching another episode of The Next Generation. And yeah, that'll basically be it. Although there's also no Toonami this week. Do you want to double up on something?
Yeah, Singular Frontier.
Okay, sure. Let's do that.
Yeah.
We'll double up on that for next week because of that. All right. So take everything I said before, but add one to Shangri-La Frontier. And with all that, we're done for real, actually. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Sarah, guess what? There's another Play as an Animal game out.
What is it this time?
It's called Squirrel with a Gun.
It looks ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculously fun. It's part Mario, part Hitman, and always played for maximum comedy. After a quick tutorial, you're set loose in the neighborhood to gather golden nuts and terrorize the locals.
Did you just break that guy's neck?
Yep, but don't worry, no bots were actually harmed.
Well, that's a relief, but what's the point of this game?
You're looking at it?
So you just run around causing mayhem?
Exactly. And now all these Agent Smith wannabes are gonna taste the wrath of the rodent.
It feels like this is the start of what could have been a much larger game.
Totally. Let's hope our furry friend is gearing up for a sequel. We give Squirrel with a Gun an all too quick 7.5 out of 10.
Here we go again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy, on January 8th of 2025. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And, well, it's our podcast. We talk about anime and usually Toonami, but again, not this week because they're just showing a bunch of marathons. But, technically, I guess we can talk about Toonami this week, just not about the shows that aired on Toonami last week. Specifically, I think we might have known this before, but we definitely know it now. So the schedule they are going to be going with upon its return after all the marathon stuff is that they're going to be having Mashal, Invincible Fight Girl, Blue Exorcist, One Piece, and then some stuff that's on kind of late for us to watch. But it will be Dragon Ball Z Kai and Naruto. So it's a little weird. They're just sticking reruns of Invincible Fight Girl in the middle there, but I guess that's what they're doing for now. We'll see if they change that. However, we also discover they're doing Naruto from the start. So we're maybe when they get to the part where we left off on, or maybe when we get to the Land of Waves arc, which they skipped over when it was on Toonami Rewind, we'll cover it again. But definitely for now, no point.
Yeah, yeah, because we just covered these episodes like a few months ago. And now they put them right back on again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a little weird, but I guess maybe they just figured, well, a lot of the people watching Naruto at 2 a.m. Eastern, time aren't going to be the ones who are probably not the ones who were watching it at, what was it, like 6 p.m. On Friday.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact times, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we've got there, I guess. So, well, we'll just move into the non-Toonami shows that we did watch. So, we start out with Yu Yu Hakusho, episode 35. So, they're still fighting the Ichigaki team, as they always call them. And basically, we get a little more information. Yes, the guys are totally being mind controlled by the Veruca, I think he calls them, which is kind of a weird. Which is kind of weird because Veruca is just the name that means wart in Latin. So, what does any of this have to do with warts? I don't know. But so Kuwabara doesn't want to fight them, but they still hit him, and he gets knocked out of the ring and apparently defeated, but it seems to maybe sort of be somewhat knocking them out of their thing, but still not really. So, yeah. Oh, Hiei and Karama show up, but they get told, yeah, sorry, you can't join. We already agreed on a 3-on-3 fight. You already had your fight, back against those other guys. Yeah, we do. It's literally called, the name of the episode, just a glimpse beneath the mask, where we see the masked warrior, and we see that it's basically this woman with pink hair. And then Yusuke gets emotional, and does he technically scream his way into a power-up? I can't remember. I can't remember if he shouts or screams, but whatever, he gets his power-up so he can use his spirit gun, and that's our episode ending.
Yeah. I was surprised to find out that the person under the mask isn't the old woman, unless they're pulling one over on me too, and it is the woman, but in a different form. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was rather amusing. I also thought it was amusing. I was like, yeah, you guys can't fight. You're stuck out of this whole thing. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on that. I thought it was, above average.
Okay. One thing I do have a question about is the bad guy. He's got that calculator that's just telling him his odds of victory and such. And there's a big thing where before it was like 99% and now it's down to 52%. I'm thinking, how is that calculating things exactly? Is he like changing the numbers in it somehow to like do it, like saying, this person is experiencing a power boost, but he doesn't seem to be. So how is it getting everything right? Or, well, I don't know if it's right, but how is it getting all of these numbers? But yeah. Other than that, pretty solid episode, I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So then we move on to, we got Shangri-La Frontier episodes 28 and 29. So basically, we find out, those people who showed up at the end, they were really just after Emil because they find Emil adorable. It's called like the Zoo Clan, I think. And they're so basically everyone, them and some of the other groups all getting this meeting, and most of the episode, the first episode is really them just doing the meeting to form sort of an alliance to try to take down Lycagon, the big wolf thing. There's a bunch of talking there. Also, we find out again that the Animalia, that's her name, the person in charge of that zoo clan, who spends like most of the meeting just coddling Emil. So she's just all she wants is just a way to get to Rabbitusa because they can't because they can't like go back into it, even though they want to because of all of the cute animals. And yeah, so then after that, we finished with all of that stuff, and then Sunraku decides, well, I guess I'll do some level grinding.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's it. He's trying to do that, and also manage to get more of the stuff from the Scorpions. And yeah, so that was our episodes.
Yeah, my problem was that this was very much like those ReZero episodes where everyone sat around the table and discussed what they were going to do. It felt like the same thing here. Everyone just sitting around the table and discussing, what they're going to do next. And I don't find that very interesting. The only time it really is interesting is whenever they come up with a big plan and then nothing goes right. But I'm not sure that's going to happen here. I did think there was a lot of the rabbit thing humor was pretty funny, especially the part whenever Sunraku figured out how to wake up the one rabbit by telling him or her.
Emil's a she.
Yeah, her this thing about him getting her certain types of food. So I thought that was pretty funny. I thought there was a lot of funny moments in this. I just wish there was more than just kind of this sitting around stuff.
I didn't mind the meeting that much because, it was really just one episode and there's a lot of funny stuff in it. Pencil God basically convincing the professor to give her all this money for that book. The fact that you just constantly see Animalia, coddling Emil the whole time throughout it. There's a bunch of funny stuff there, and that made it work. I saw a lot of people say, because the criticism I've heard so many times, I haven't seen it, but season 3 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, everyone keeps complaining that the season is just mostly a bunch of meetings. And I saw a number of people saying, if they had meetings more like this series, they would be more tolerable, because there's jokes, fun character bits, that kind of stuff. I also did like the bit where Sunraku's trying to take care of the Scorpions, but it doesn't work because of the update, and he gets annoyed at the developers. The one thing I found a little weird is when he says like, "Oh, there's no way the Scorpions would have AI that good." And I'm thinking, Sunraku, the AI in this game is insanely good. You go adventuring around with an AI. You constantly interact with these AI rabbits as if they're regular people. Like, the AI in this game is amazing. Why do you think they can't apply that to combat too? So yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. On the whole, though, but yeah, maybe they could have cut down on the meeting a little. Well, we'll see where it goes from here. All right, so then we've got, because there's no Toonami, we're going through this stuff pretty fast, but we've got Blue Lock episode 26. So let's see. So Isagi is joined by these two other guys who have noticeable accents. I'm going to assume the guy with the southern accent had like the Kansai accent in the original Japanese.
Yeah, I think he said so too.
Okay. And I can't remember what the other person's accent was though. So they're joining there. There's a few jokes about how they're actually getting along. And then they join with Rin and that other guy. I can't remember his name. The one who got paired up with Rin that we didn't know before. So then they have to go. So then they play a match against some other against Chigiri and like a bunch of other people I don't know.
Mhm.
And then they are going through that, and because the point is also trying to like show your worth or whatever. Isagi's trying to do that, but then has trouble. But then at the end he thinks, wait, I've got an idea. Cliffhanger ending. He's got an idea.
Yeah, the way you describe it makes it sound a lot better than it actually was. Yeah, I can't say I was too keen on this episode. Uh I like some of the joking around, but the soccer stuff, it got down to this. What was it? I know they said you had to make a chemical reaction. That's what they used to say. And now they were using some other terminology similar to that, but I forget what it was now.
Oh, I can't remember either.
Yeah. And man, what was that? Well, yeah. Just about an average episode, I'd say.
Yeah, two other things to comment on. The first is, this is last episode. I said, people are talking about the animation not being so good. I wasn't really seeing it in the previous episode. Yeah, I saw it this episode, definitely. There are so many shots where just everyone is motionless, except for sometimes the ball, and such. That said, it's not as bad as I kind of thought. As people made it sound. Now, maybe it gets worse as the season goes on, but while it was noticeable in this episode, it was not as bad as I kind of was expecting it to be. It's still very much a lot of cases where they're deliberately not showing much movement, or everyone is just standing there, and it kind of maybe throws in a few special effects to make it look like there's more movement, but it's not as bad as I was kind of expecting from what people were saying. The real question is, why are they cheaping out on the animation? Blue Lock is like, this was like the second best-selling manga of last year. This series is crazy popular.
Yeah.
Or wait, was it last year or was it the year before? Let me double check. No, I think it was the year before. Well, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of last year as this year because it was so recent, but
yeah.
Okay, yeah, Blue Lock was number 5 last year. So
okay.
And in 2023 it was what was it in 2023? Oh yeah, Blue Lock was number 1 in 2023 and it was in 5th place last year. So I'm just thinking, all that popularity and you couldn't at least keep the animation quality of the first season?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense to me. Yeah. I don't understand why I noticed too a little bit about the animation, but I wasn't paying enough attention to the animation to see its faults to it. So I'll have to look closer next time.
Yeah. The other, but the bigger problem I had with that is the fact. So we've got this game. Okay, how many characters there? Let me think. There's 10 characters involved here. There's like the 2 sort of leaders on each team, and then there's the 3 people added to them. Of those 10 players, we know 3. We know Isagi, we know Chigiri, and we kind of know Ren. And that's it. Everyone else, I'm pretty sure, is completely new to us. And that made it harder to get invested in it because most of the characters are completely new. Now, in a sports series, obviously, when you introduce a new team, that's going to be a bunch of new characters. But you normally at least know the people on your team. So that's like half of them you know. Here, I don't even really know much about the people that are on his team, Isagi's team.
Yeah.
So That was a problem. I was legitimately forgetting who was even on what team sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is confusing.
All right. So there we have it. That's Blue Lock, and that's it. Again, it's pretty short discussion. There weren't that many series, and yeah, I guess we can just say what our favorites for this week were out of the 3 shows.
I'm gonna go Shangri-La Frontier.
That was my pick also. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I've rethought it over. I think we should watch 2 more episodes of Shangri-La Frontier this week. I'll be able to squeeze them in.
Okay. All right. Okay. For yeah, or before recording, we were talking about what our plans for last week were, and we were thinking we would do one, but for next week, we're gonna do the same thing this time. We're gonna do 1 Yu Yu Hakusho, 2 Shangri-La Frontier, 1 Blue Lock, and then also the Toonami stuff. So that's our plan for next week. Anything else to say about manga or anime or anything like that?
Man, I was trying to think. No, not really. Not much this week.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I am still watching Bleach. I am now through episode 8 because that's today's date, the 8th, and I'm still trying to watch an episode every day for an entire year and see what happens. So far so good. It's kind of amazing like how good the show was early on, that whenever an episode isn't so good, it's still pretty good. So yeah, we're just about the part where we find out that Rukia is in deep trouble. We're just finding out. It's like, uh-oh, there's something going on here. So because for me, watching it the first time, I think I started watching when, like, right around the time Orihime got her powers, and that made me like a huge Orihime fan. So I didn't know when the point was that Rukia, like, people were really mad at her and stuff. And it finally came a little bit in episode 7, but definitely in episode 8. It was like, okay, yeah, there's something bad going to happen here. And yeah, I I think it was so funny how, like, Chad is, like, so useless, but he has that super strength, and yet he just, like, never really does anything with it. I think that's kind of humorous, but yeah, so far so good. And right now Rukia leads the best girl count with 3 episodes so far. So we'll see if she can be caught.
Caught? Wait,
Caught.
caught?
C-A caught. You know, like catch up. You know, caught.
C-A-T? Or?
No, C-A-U-G-H-T.
C-A-U-G-H-T?
Yeah.
But what do you mean by beat? I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being a complete moron here, but what do you mean by beat caught?
Because she's got 3 right now. Orihime has 2, Tatsuki has 2. We're just trying to see if Ruki can be caught by the other girls.
I'm sorry, I misheard you. I thought you said beat caught. So when I heard that, I think the only character I could think of that had a name that sounded like that was Khan. So I thought you were saying, are you making a joke by saying Khan was best girl in an episode? Like the little, like, the little doll guy? Okay. Okay. I am not an idiot. I just did not hear you well.
No, it's just I kind of talk with a lisp, so
Okay.
uh,
No,
that's not a surprise.
I just completely misheard you. If I had heard be caught, I would have got it, but I just heard beat caught, which is why I was trying to think. Like I said, I was thinking, who is caught? That's why I was asking you to spell it, because I was trying to figure out the character. Oh man, oh boy, that was an interesting misunderstanding. Maybe I need new headphones or something. Anyway, yep. So we've got that. Yeah, I was looking at thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's where we are now. All right. Well, I don't have too much else to really say about. Yeah, I don't have anything about manga or anime to really say. Any news? I think anything important I said I had already given. So, okay. We've gotten all of that, and yep, well, we're done with anime, manga stuff, so we're going to move on and start talking about Star Trek, the new addition to our podcast, which we're mostly doing here just because it would probably be easier to just append it to the end of this and make a whole new podcast.
Yeah, Star Trek: The Next Generation, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And this week we got what, episode 11?
Yes, Haven.
Yep, episode 11, Haven. So what we got here is that Troy has been put into an arranged marriage. And if one thing is certain, anytime there's an arranged marriage in pretty much any form of media, it's considered a bad thing and it has to be stopped. So that's kind of exactly what happens here, because the power of love, you can't have other people choose for you. So yeah, so basically Troy and this guy meet each other on the Enterprise, and his parents come over, and then Troy's mother comes over, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the actress who plays her like related somehow to Gene Roddenberry?
Matt Jill Barrett. She played. Let's see. She was Loxana Troy. Yes, she was his wife.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So she is rather eccentric and causes a lot of problems. And basically, the two parents of the guy and her get into it a lot, and then finally they end up coming to this like planet where there's people who are suffering. I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, but like the guy decided he was going to stay there and help them out, and that means that Troy gets out of the arranged marriage, and that then the parents can all go home and leave, and that's it. And that's the episode.
Well, I'll be honest. I thought this episode was pretty boring for the most part. It made me think, maybe I was a little too hard on the previous episode. Because this felt like, well, what if we were to take the parts I found boring in the previous episode and just make them the whole episode, and not have Q around to at least liven some things up?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought this was boring too. I did like some of the weird things that Luxwana said about Picard. I thought those were kind of funny, and those are like the only good thing really about the episode, was how Picard got mad over heard joking around about him, and I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. But mostly it was your typical plot line about arranged marriages. Arranged marriages are the worst, and blah blah blah. We always hear that. Honestly, I would be. I wish I had an arranged marriage. That would have been a positive for me. But yeah, it never really did much with most of the other characters. I mean, Riker got a little bit of screen time. Data had a couple of funny moments, but other than that, it was just kind of like Troy's angst the whole episode. So, yeah, not a very good one.
Yeah, and Data. The best part line of the episode is when Data just says, "Could you please continue the petty bickering? I find it most intriguing."
Yeah, that was great. That was great. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, continuing the petty bickering. And then that guy was just like slamming that gong over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of, but just mostly a dull episode. It's, they have the character show up and just like has there ever been a time where a character was introduced in it, like an episode, as a love interest for someone of the main cast, and they actually stayed a love interest for more than just that episode? I want to make it clear, we're not talking about, when a character is introduced and later on becomes one. I mean, like, when they're just introduced in that episode, potential love interest or whatever, and then it's just not completely over by the same episode. Like, I don't think this ever, I think in TNG, they never did that. There was, I don't think that was ever the case in DS9. Well, DS9, of course, they did multiple. Like, how many how many episodes were there where Dax meets some person and completely falls in love, and it's like the thing, oh, this is like the person, super important, and then they're just like, now they're just done by the end of the episode. Then when she actually does end up with someone, it's actually, an actual member of the cast. So it just makes you wonder, gee, what was the point of all of that stuff? Yeah. So let's see. There's that.
So we're going to give it a rating of 1 to 10, what you thought of it. So my rating is a 3.
Okay.
My rating's a 3 out of 10.
Okay, mine is actually slightly better. I was going to give it a 3.5.
Okay.
I have to give the 0.5s. I feel like most of the time I actually want to give a 0.5 when I give something out of 10, because I'm always like, I'm stuck between these two numbers. So let's go 0.5. I did have a few other comments I wanted to make quick on the episode. So the plot is like, there's those people, the Torellians who, are suffering from some major sickness, and that's why they can't ever interact with other people because it would spread there. So he decides to go over there to try to help them with some medical supplies because he's a doctor. And I'm thinking, well, but like their entire race died off from all this stuff. Presumably a lot of people, including some very, very smart doctors, have tried to come up with a cure. Why do you think that you're going to manage to figure this out where no one else could?
Yeah.
And then there's also, this is a weird thing, because he knows about them because of like some psych link or whatever, and you're wondering, oh, well, how did that happen? And we basically all locks on a Troy, says, oh, it's very simple, and then gives basically a technobabble explanation. Yeah. And there's that. Why were the Turellian girls wearing those weird outfits also? Those like weird, like just stomach exposing ones. Like, why were they dressed like that? Was it maybe like it was supposed to be some sort of fan service to the viewer? But why in universe were they dressed like that?
Fan service. In fact, Troy kind of herself is dressed rather interestingly until finally Jellicoe comes around and forces her to wear a real uniform. And so
yeah, there's that. But even their outfit, like, you know, I could see someone wearing it. The others are just like, why are you dressed like that? So yeah, it's just a pretty boring episode on the whole. It's the only really. I guess there's some continuity there because it does introduce Troy's mother. But you know, if someone were like trying to watch through the series, I'd probably say, yeah, you can probably just skip this. All you really need to know is that Troy has a mother. That's literally every time Waxana shows up, that's mentioned. So you don't even need to know this episode. Yeah, and that's basically it. It's just boring. And yeah, I'm going to hope the next episode's better.
What's the title of the next episode?
The Big Goodbye.
Okay.
Yep, I guess that's all of it. So I don't have anything to add. So let's see, is there anything I wanted to add? Well, I will just say, watching this episode did make me think, oh man, maybe we should have been doing season 1 of Deep Space Nine. I think that was a bit better than the season 1 of this show. Yeah. Okay, well, I know there are at least some episodes in season 1 that are considered decent. I'm sure we'll get to them eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Yep. So that has been our podcast for now. You can find all our other episodes at toonami-therapy.podbean.com. We'll be back here next week with actual Toonami series to discuss, along with all the other stuff that we've discussed in this episode, including hopefully a better episode of Next Generation. And yeah, I don't know what the next one is considered exactly, good or bad, but we'll see. So yeah, I don't have anything else to say. So I guess we'll all see you next time.
You don't have to take everything on alone, you know? You have us.
You don't know what it's like.
Then tell me.
What's happening to you? I don't know.
We've got your back, Weiss. That's what family's for.
I'm sorry. This is something I have to do alone.